First of all, I love the State of the Union because I think it really showed people who fights for them and who does not. The State of the Union also showed how petulant Trump was. You know, I like to call him Terror 47 because if you notice at the very beginning, he was like, these Democrats, none of them are going to stand for me.
Yes.
And then he kept turning at them, like whatever he would say stuff, and he would just like pout, like in real time. So you saw that like he was just like trying to be the cool kid, like in the lunchroom, and was trying to do everything to get a reaction. So you got to see like how weak he was in real time, even though he wasn't going off script. But also, you know, as a Democrat bully, as a proud Democrat bully, I appreciated how he looked in those people's faces, lied to them, played in their face, and watched them basically not do anything.
Right,
whether it was calling Senator Warren Pocahontas, whether it was looking at folks and lying to them and pointing to them as he disparaged them, nothing happened. And it was like, do you want actual freedom and liberation, or do you want to say, oh, we were the party of decorum, like we held up a sign while we were being lied to? And so I really appreciated it for, you know, for that display, but also I love the DEI that was happening as he kept pulling people out, and how he was like, now you get to be a police officer, now you get to go to West Point. So now because you like him, you get like prizes.
Yes.
And you got to see in real time like how people were being bought off. So like I really appreciated it. But you know, my main man, my cousin, not really my cousin, like Reverend Al, he was the one, he's the only person like I really appreciated, and everybody was like walking out at, you know, there was a couple people who were like yelling like you lie, but
Nancy Pelosi looked like she was gonna cry.
Listen, that was the Republican Party that she fought for.
Yeah.
Remember 8 years ago?
Say
she said, we need a strong Republican Party.
That's what she said.
Didn't want to push progressives, didn't want to support progressives. We need a strong Republican Party. That was the Republican Party that she wanted.
There you
that
go.
Biden fought for,
there we go,
and
man.
Here we are.
Clip that up. That's a whole thing right there, man.
Did you want to play the clip of Miracle? This was Trump talking directly to the Democrats, wanting their applause as well.
Yeah, man, this was
Q-gate, Lady Gaga.
If such speech to Congress. And once again, I look at the Democrats in front of me, and I realize there is absolutely nothing I can say to make them happy or to make them stand or smile or applaud. Nothing I can do. I could find a cure to the most devastating disease, a disease that would wipe out entire nations,
RFK won't allow
or announce the answers to the greatest economy in history, or the stoppage of crime to the lowest levels ever recorded. And these people sitting right here will not clap, will not stand, and certainly will not cheer for these astronomical achievements. They won't do it, no matter what. Five times I've been up here. It's very sad.
He flexed on that. He said, "I've been up here 5 times, nigga."
Yeah, but again,
despite all your meddlesome tactics, I've been up here 5 times.
And again, it wasn't enough that like the Democrats did offer this very weak, you know, response. He wants the adoration. Like Trump wants the claps. He wants, you know what I'm saying? Was Fetterman there? It would have been wild if like Fetterman showed up in support of Donald Trump. I'm surprised he didn't. You know what I'm saying? But it was very interesting. But you mentioned Miracle, Al Green, and he's a Congress.
Not that Al Green.
Yeah, because I was like, is it Al Green? Al Green, United States representative from Texas. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So Al Green, after lie number 2, you know what I'm saying? Like,
he said, one too many.
He decided he had enough. And he had his cane with him too.
Yeah,
like,
man, yeah.
Like he was
I thought he was about to cane somebody.
Yeah, he was like, hold up.
His tie was the Constitution.
I didn't pre that.
He had his hair slicked
back.
Yeah.
He got a fresh one. He was in the barbershop that morning.
No funny shit. I feel like this would be a perfect campaign for a restaurant like Raising Cane's.
Raising Cane's. We have a title. We have an episode title, Raising Cane's. So can you play the clip of Al Green taking this stance and basically saying like, nah, I've had enough. Y'all gonna have to throw me up out of there.
Mr. Green, take your seat. Take your seat, sir. Take your seat.
Come on now.
Finding that members continue to engage in willful and concerted disruption of proper decorum, the chair now directs the sergeant at arms to restore order. Remove this gentleman from the chamber.
I'm going to be honest. You can pause that. I'm going to be honest. Like, I thought, Miracle, I thought that, I was like, oh, they're about to do this strategy where at every few minutes, another Democrat is going to get up and disrupt.
You thought they were organized. You thought that there was the organized resistance.
I was like, oh,
you
this
thought
about to
the
be...
Democrats were going to fight for us. You thought the Democrats were going to tell that man that he was lying to his face and that he could not play with the American people in front of them. You thought. That's what you get for thinking.
Yes. I thought like...
The one time a man thinks and we need it to be right. No.
Wow. That's why.
No. Shout out to Hakeem Jeffries.
Miracle. Oh yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. I was like, this would be pretty dope. Like, if they kept disrupting this, I was like, yo, this is about to be turned up. And then they just handed out the little signs. And again, like, I mean, sitting with the sign is such a weak look to me.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to hold up my little sign.
They did their best church lady impression. They were just sitting there fanning, like, oh, hell is hot. Like, that's what, you know what I mean? It was just like, Easter ain't even happened yet, and you all look so weak in front of, like, this orange terror.
Now you know I'm going to do it again. Because this is why I'm here.
Yes.
They had the signs.
Yes.
Because that's all they allowed Rashida to do when she wanted to protest Netanyahu.
Come on.
And she wanted to go out. And they were like, no, you cannot. So once again, all of this violence and chaos and the police being called to escort a black man out of Congress is again the fault of the Democrats. And I'm going to keep talking about the imperial boomerang and how they have created this foundation.
You are on one today. Miracle has lines ready.
That has literally left us without a defense mechanism to fight for our freedoms, our liberations, and preserve our rights.
Reverend Al Green.
And he's 77 years old.
He is, He was the wrong shade of green because Marjorie Taylor Greene was the light green.
Yes.
And she was allowed to come up and praise dance and do all these other things. That she had to keep America great hat or make America whatever.
She was screaming at Biden.
Man, she was turned the fuck up. And then who did kick out? The old black man. So, shades of green matter.
Wow.
All green matters.
Wrong shade of green. Well, speaking of rights, Miracle, Trump talked about him restoring free speech only hours after he is attempting to silence free speech. Can you play that clip, Farouk?
Government censorship and brought back free speech in America. It's back.
If you're the right color.
Well, again, I think and the reason we're saying this is because the day before, earlier that day, on his Truth Social account, Donald Trump wrote this: all federal funding will stop. So remember, he said no more governments.
I mean,
all federal funding will stop for any college, school, or university that allows illegal protests. Agitators will be imprisoned or permanently sent back to the country from which they came. American students will be permanently expelled or, depending on your crime, arrested. No mask. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So, in one hand says, there is no free speech. You're not allowed to protest, regardless of what it is. If you protest, you'll be immediately expelled or arrested, and no mask. And then he said he brought back free speech.
It was interesting because, when I was watching this last night, I made a clip about it. I was like, I know this sounds familiar. And it reminded me of Revenge of the Sith when Padme's in the hall and the Emperor Palpatine is talking. And she's like, this is how liberty dies, with thunderous applause.
Yeah.
And, this was just people were clapping of every time he mentioned someone in the audience or taking away trans rights, taking away, blocking all these different tariffs or creating all these different tariffs and blocking all these liberties, people were just applauding for Americans' rights to have democracy, a democratic process, be represented in the halls that they vote for, stripped away from them. And you had the perfect example, like Miracle said, highlighted. You had these weak, spineless Democrats sitting down, showing, just cowardice by their little fans, and then the Republicans giving a standing ovation every time Trump uttered a sentence, applauding for everything that they seen that they wanted to come true. They literally got everything they wanted on their Christmas list. So why wouldn't they be happy?
So I have a question. I have a couple of questions.
I have a question too, but
my first question is, if we have a First Amendment right to protest and to petition our government when we feel like they're doing wrong, what would deem protest illegal at a college institution?
So the same way that there were protest zones that were indicated in Pittsburgh when the protests were happening, areas that you were not allowed to protest in, right? They can enforce the same things.
Okay, so then that brings me to question number 2, which is, why pardon January 6ers for going into the Capitol building ready to tie up your vice president and kill people with masks, but now you're saying that anyone who protests on a college, that college will lose funding completely?
Well, I'm going to say, Trouble, that's one of those rhetoric. You know the answer.
Yeah, I was say, come on. Like, you know what I mean?
You know, and who's protesting?
Who was it that called January 6th a legitimate political discourse?
One of them Republicans, you know what I'm saying? Like,
and that's why, because they legitimized
and because
all of this right-wing activity, all this heresy.
And really it's because, they're on Donald Trump's job. Like they did that for Donald Trump. Yeah. So anything you do for, again, this is a man who put out on his own Truth Social that he was a king. He's loving Putin. He loves the dude in I forget the other he's like one of these strong men. He loves the dude in North Korea. He loves I think it's Hungary, the guy who's in charge of Hungary. He loves all these he wants to be a dictator. So to Donald Trump, what is legitimate free speech is, are they, for lack of a better word, are they sucking my dick? Yes. Are they against me? That's a crime. Because this is how dictatorships work. This is how the role. So in the college protests were, and most of them were highlighting what was happening in Gaza, in the Middle East, and he doesn't want that. So it's no, you're not going to have that. So that's really where it is. It's the hypocrisy is so crazy that it's oh, okay, but his folks will just clap. It's when they say it's a cult, bro.
Yeah.
Anything this man says is a cult. I have a question for you, Miracle, because I saw, just in response to how weak the Democrats look, I saw prior to the State of the Union, there were people calling for nobody to show up. Do you think that would have been a better response if on one side of the aisle, nobody was there? Should they have not showed up, or should they have gone out like Al Green should more? Because I guess a lot of them left at the end, but by that point
it was over.
It was over. He spoke for 2 hours. So what should they have done in your opinion?
Something.
Anything. Something besides
what I would have
throw them signs at his head. Something.
Either the strategic interruption and walk out. You can't do that because you condemn Palestinian protesters when they did it, number one. Something like bringing all the people who were impacted. If I was smart, I would have bought somebody who was impacted by Medicaid cuts. And each time, he would have said something, would have stood with that person, walked out, had them talk to the media about what these cuts look like, what it actually looks like. I would have had somebody doing he's lying, here's the truth about what's going on. Here's the truth about these incidences. Yes. Here's the truth about like Social Security. People are not getting Social Security when they're dead. They're left on the rolls because we, have to keep a track of all of the humans that we have, in the United States of America, past and present. Mm-hmm. I would have had somebody explaining different things. I would have had influencers talking about what this stuff means when we're talking about, open borders, how we've never had open borders, how we've always enforced immigration, why people have to come to the United States and be in the sovereign in order to apply for refugee status and different things. I would have had somebody, just education, something. Yes. I would not have had a woman in the basement with American flags behind her with bad lighting talking about 1, 2, 3, let's get organized as my democratic response.
Oh, that was the response?
To what's going on. Not only did she do that, Representative Michigan Slotkin, she also praised Bush and Reagan. Like, girl, what in the world are we doing? We cannot be moving our party to the right. We lost
any more than
when we tried to move our party to the right and get Republicans. There was no messaging towards Democrats. There was no messaging towards progressives. There was no messaging about our big tent and what the future is that we are fighting for. There was no like, oh my gosh, look at the cost of eggs a month and a half later. It cannot be blamed on Joe Biden. All of this stuff. There was no, he has lied to you. These are all the lies. Where is the white lady from California, Katie, even though she lost her and her whiteboard? Something.
Yes.
Nothing.
Yeah, she was tight with that whiteboard, yeah.
There was no pattern. And again, I said this earlier, but not seeing the Democrats be able to show up and fight also is an indicator that Democrats do not know how to show up and govern, is also a justification for the way the results went last November. And as Stephen A. Smith said on The View, people did not vote for Trump. They voted against the Democrats because the Democrats have failed